Have you ever done a Resident Evil 7 start to finish marathon? Well, watching a bunch of science fiction movies that you had on DVD and eating cheese pizza, and then had a really weird dream afterwards? Annihilation is that dream. It stars Natalie Portman and not so much Oscar Isaac. He's in a supporting role. And Natalie Portman, her husband disappeared, he's come back, and he's sick, and she's going into this thing called the Shimmer to find out what happened to him. And to give you an idea, there is definitely a strong fungal aesthetic, and if you've played Resident Evil 7, there's fungus, it's you're primarily dealing with the fungus, and there's even some fungus people at some point. So yes, there's fungus through that video game, and there's fungus through this movie. And the other thing about that video game is you find these video cassettes, and you watch the video cassettes, and they're like little mini games or submissions where you play as a different character to find something out. Okay, so that makes sense. And in this one, there's fungus everywhere. In Annihilation, the movie, there's fungus everywhere, and you keep finding these cards, these little, just like this, these little data cards that have video, and you play the video, and instead of you watching the video in the video becomes the movie, and you have that experience. So there's the Resident Evil 7 sort of zombie aspect, and then the Shimmer is sort of like the black goo from Prometheus, and then the lighting is from Alien, and you've got, what was that one? I can't remember. I think it's like Star Trek V or something where V'ger shows up, and it's making all the weird noises, which is really just a rip-off of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but Ubered. And then it's like, that's in this movie, and so are the weird colors. It's basically, whoever made this movie is a super science fiction fan, and they've seen all these movies, and they've taken all of these elements from all these science fiction movies and put them into a prism, and the movie that played, that's what they made. The movie is a metaphor for the process of making the movie. Now, there's a car. To be clear, is this a good film? Plot-wise, no, it is not. There are a lot of things that happen in this movie where you'd be looking at someone saying, okay, you're an experienced soldier, you should know better than that, or why didn't they just do this, or why didn't they just do that, or why are these, if you're connected to reality and you know about these things and you understand, you'd be going, okay, this doesn't make a lot of sense. It's kind of a weak movie plot. If this thing happened in, 1950s America, I might understand it a little better, but I know enough about modern America to be able to tell you that no, okay, that stuff is not happening the way it should. It's like, yes, I'm going off alone for plot convenience, even though I know better. And there's a giant monster running around that might eat me. It's, okay, you know better. It's like, oh, that thing, it's going off that way. Well, should we follow it? Well, it's got our friend, but no, we're going to sit here. I don't want to get into spoilers on this movie, but there's a number of ways to look at this movie. One of them is as strictly, it is what it is, a piece of cinema, and these things are happening for the story, and you look at this, it's a gorgeous movie, beautiful colors. Some of the special effects are a little on the cheap side, but meh, okay. It's not that worrisome. You're looking at this movie because it's a fabulous piece of modern abstract art. Okay, there's that. Then you could look at it for its own narrative where it just doesn't work. Okay? It's far less of a narrative that way. And then the third way I think you could look at it in terms of either somebody is having a damaged relationship and working through it, or there's a cat scratching at the door, or it's a group of people who are sort of going through this adventure because they're really going through therapy. They're all damaged people. This is a movie, most of the main characters are female, and they're all damaged women. And, I mean, really, when I was watching it, I'm thinking, this movie is Alien. The first one there, it's Kane, and then Kane is taken out of the story. But he does some Kane things, which, you know, you just going, huh? Okay. And Kane, if you don't know, if you watch the movie Alien, Kane is the character that got face hugged and then his chest burst. There's a character named Kane in this movie, played by Oscar Isaac. And whereas that's not what happened to him, he has a similar function plot-wise to what's going on. So it's like, yeah, when you're watching this movie, the weakest part to me, or it could be the defining part, is there are these flashbacks to what happened before, I think either before the husband disappeared, or before Oscar Isaac's character disappeared, or perhaps, you know, while he was married to Padme. And then, you know, either one, those don't really belong there because they're not relevant to the crisis that's happening. Or two, this whole thing is a metaphor for that screwed up relationship. You know, and in the end, well, I can't tell you about the end, but that would be a different analysis. So, one way you look at this movie, and it's sort of like Prometheus, where it's a really messed up movie, and then there's these dumb flashbacks. Or a really good version of Prometheus, though. This is like Prometheus 2, they got it right, and the black ooze came to Earth and created a giant soap bubble. Or you could look at it like, what was that movie? It's Sucker Punch. I didn't see it, but Sucker Punch, where the fantasy is them resolving the problem. You know? Anyway, just to be clear, this is kind of a brain bender film. If you want to see a pretty movie, eat some popcorn, and watch some really crazy stuff, great movie for you. And if you like brain benders, I personally think you owe it to yourself to see this movie. And Cat. But for the casual movie fan, I mean, it's really kind of either or. I mean, if you're just the kind of person who wants to shut your head off and watch something beautiful, gonna see this movie. There's some gore in it. The monsters are next level. I find them truly terrifying. I mean, I can't really say I'm going to put this as high as Aliens, because I didn't like the style. There's too much going on in it. But it is a solid brain-bender movie with a truly beautiful visual narrative. The plot is weak. Anyway, that's my opinion. I'd love to hear yours down in the comments below. I am Richard Leland Neal.